libertarianism is a poison that's crept into America. That's the title, by the way, over at HartmannReport.com. What got me thinking about this was a news story I saw yesterday that said that Bobby Kennedy has said, quote, "I've always been aligned with libertarians on most issues." Which got me thinking. I mean, it's rare for a Democrat to say that, but it's extremely common for Republicans to. Rand Paul and Mike Lee both proclaim that they are libertarians, more libertarian than Republican, some would say. Rand's father, Ron Paul, turned libertarianism into a really great fundraising scam that, made him millions of dollars over the years. We see this writ large in the rhetoric of Republican members of Congress, too. I mean, the core libertarian principle is that government should field an army, have police, and have courts, and that's it. No Social Security, no Medicare, no Medicaid, no minimum wage, no workplace safety rules, no environmental rules, nothing. No public schools. This is the essence of libertarianism. Tear it all down and just have a government that runs the army and the courts so that the billionaires can litigate their copyright claims and things like that. Just that simple. This was something that, essentially came out of the work of Milton Friedman and Ayn Rand, and I'm going to go into more detail on that tomorrow when part 2 of my article will be published. But basically, libertarians don't believe in democracy. If the majority of the people want Social Security, libertarians say, tough luck, that doesn't comport with our philosophy. And the question that always stops libertarians dead in their tracks, I used to, Yaron Brook, I don't know if he's still around or if he's still president of the Objectivist Society or whatever it was called. It was the Ayn Rand group. He used to come on this program. I mean, this is like 15 years ago. He used to come on this program, and I'd debate libertarianism with him until, he got tired of it. And I would always say, I would start by saying, please name one country anywhere in the world, anytime in the past 7,000 years, or even one city or county or state where libertarianism has succeeded and produced general peace and prosperity. And they can't name one. Now, I've been in countries that are run along libertarian lines, essentially. I was in Uganda during the war with Idi Amin. The government ran the army, and that was it. There were no government services beyond the military. And it was awful. I was in South Sudan before they became an independent nation. And they were, essentially still at war with North Sudan. And in fact, we were just 15 miles short of the Darfur border where the Sudanese, the North Sudan, it's called Sudan and South Sudan, but I'm calling it North Sudan to differentiate, they had sent the Janjaweed down, these horseback murderers, to burn out the people in Darfur, and the refugees were pouring into South Sudan where we were. I was there with Joe Madison and Rusty Humphreys and Ellen Ratner and my son. And, we were doing everything we could with these refugees, but what a mess. I mean, because the government was basically a libertarian government. It did nothing except run the army. And this is what these guys want for America. And it's one of the things, by the way, that is animating all this shutdown rhetoric, is this libertarian idea that, there's a couple of Republicans who come out and said, it won't be so bad. Well, the government doesn't do anything important anyway. Really? In those countries where corruption or civil war or oligarchic ideology run along these kind of Rand Paul, Ayn Rand lines, the roads, the utilities, the housing, they're all fine in the wealthy neighborhoods. This is why most people who espouse libertarianism, I realize that there are some average Joes who think that it's hip and fashionable to be a libertarian because they've been listening to right-wing radio. They've been listening to libertarians on right-wing radio, or they've been reading libertarian websites, or they read Atlas Shrugged when they were 16 years old and thought it was really cool. But, while those countries have enclaves where wealthy people live that are functional, most of the rest of the country is basically slums, with no resources, low taxes, no functional services. Ron Paul Remember when the presidential debate, this was, I think, 10 or 12 years ago, there was a Republican presidential debate and Ron Paul was in it. And Anderson Cooper asked the question, well, what do you do if somebody, you know, a young man gets in a car accident and staggers to the emergency room, but he doesn't have insurance, he can't pay for his visit, what do you do? And Ron Paul said, send him away. He said, I'm quoting, that's what freedom is all about, taking your own risks. Right. Again, no country has ever succeeded based on Grover Norquist's dictum that government should be shrunk to the size where it can be drowned in the bathtub. This is what Texas did with their grid when they split it away from the American grid to deregulate their power industry. And how did that work out? Well, people in Texas were getting $17,000 a month electric bills during that cold snap that shut down their power grid back, 4 or 5 years ago. This libertarian worldview shows up in Republican rhetoric about austerity and self-reliance, and has basically since the 1980s. That was when the libertarians really kind of took over the Republican Party. And, and of course you've got the libertarian billionaires. David Koch, for example, he's passed away now, but David Koch in 1980 ran for vice president on the libertarian ticket. And his brother is now still, one of the largest funders of Republican causes or Republican-aligned causes in the United States. But David ran on a platform of ending Social Security, ending Medicare, ending public schools, ending the post office, ending public roads, ending basically everything except the police, the army, and the court system. True libertarianism. He got 1% of the vote. But that ideology has taken over the Republican Party. And the result of that is that, and Reagan's, libertarian experiment, we've been living in this for 42 years, is that we have historically low taxes on corporations and billionaires. As a result of that, we have an impoverished middle class. We have devastated labor unions. We have the highest rate of child poverty and maternal mortality death in the entire developed world. We have millions of American citizens who have no access to health care. 1 in 7 American children goes to bed hungry. And our schools, roads, bridges, and rail systems are largely in shambles. Can you think of any time when libertarianism has worked or succeeded or even helped? I'm telling you, this is what is driving. This is the philosophy, the political philosophy. And like I said, tomorrow